Good morning. I just spilled coffee on myself. I tried to be too fancy, but I'm back with my coffee mug. I am doing this video earlier in the morning again because I have 2 back-to-back doctor's appointments today. Nothing serious. I just had a regular scheduled thing, and then I had another appointment, and I thought I only want to go to the office once, so I scheduled them on the same day. But because it's earlier, I may get garbage truck noise. Sorry. But it's time to update you on my reading. So I had some weird bookish things happen in my life today. Remember how there's been a couple times where I've ordered books from bookshop.org and I've gotten duplicates? They've always been really good about it. And the problem seems to be actually on their fulfillment center. And they've been really good about it. And it's fine. That exact same thing happened to me with Book of the Month this week. I ordered 3 books. If you've seen my haul, my stop at haul, and more news on that one too, I got 3 books, and then 2 days ago, they showed up again, which is very surprising from Book of the Month because I think they handle their own distribution, but they said the same thing. They said just pass it on. So my bookish best friend with who I'm seeing tomorrow night, Saturday night, we're gonna go see a play. She said she'd take them all off my hands, so she gets them all. I just thought that was weird. Other bookish things. So in my book haul, Make It Stop, I said, I'm done. I'm not expecting any more books. Day after I filmed that, I had another book show up. This book came, Cross Stitch by Jazmina Barrera. In my defense, this actually does have an April 2nd publication date. So I was not expecting it until April. So one less book to come in April. Think of it that way. This is a book that Sarah at Eyes on Indie has been raving about, and I couldn't resist. And I've noticed that lots of times, especially with small presses, you sometimes do get them through bookshop.org before the release date, which is kind of fun. So yeah, I'm hoping to get this one read soon. It's possible it may go on vacation with me, but again, more on that in the future. Let's see what else. Apparently, I was not clear last week. I'm not going on vacation until next week. So obviously I am here this week, but this will be my last weekly update until I'm back from vacation. I am planning on trying to do a vlog during vacation, so you'll get to see Arizona. And hopefully it won't be too long. It'll be not horribly boring as my BookTube prize vlog will be when you see it, which is long and boring. So I sell myself so well, don't I? So yes. Let's see what else. I am still very behind in comments. So if you have sent me a comment and I've not answered it, sorry, I'm working on it. I'm really trying to get caught up with comments before I go on vacation. So, and I mean, I will be probably watching videos and commenting while I'm on vacation because we're going to see my dad. It's not like we're going to Disneyland where you're busy all day long and we'll have downtime and things like that. So I'll probably be watching. I will have videos scheduled during that time, but I won't be putting any videos out till I get back. So yes, it is going to be 70 plus degrees in Oregon tomorrow through the weekend. Well, tomorrow is Saturday. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, which means everyone in the Portland area is going to lose their mind. They're just going to lose their mind. I am celebrating this by not wearing socks today. I hate wearing socks. I'm so happy when I don't have to wear socks. So, so no socks for the next 3 or 4 days. And then I go to Arizona where I will not have to wear socks. It's all good. So anyway, now I'm talking about socks. I should probably get to my reading, shouldn't I? Especially because I have actually kind of a lot to say about my reading this week. I finished 5 books, which is, sounds kind of amazing. 2 of them are books that I've been reading for a long time. So but anyway, the first book I finished was Brooklyn by Colm Tóibín. I did this for the Irish Readathon. It's also, as I said, been on my shelf on my Kindle last week, exactly 10 years, if you saw that video. I really enjoyed it. I've only ever read 1 short story by Tóibín before. So he's not completely new to me, but he's still pretty new. But I just thought this was so beautifully written. I loved just sort of the internal life of Eilis, and I really related to her with what she's going through and what I went through at kind of the same age. Now, in the last kind of part of the story, she does some things that really kind of irritated me and just, as you know, not a fan of books where the plots are pushed forward by stupid decisions, which is not the case in this book. That's not what pushes the plot forward. It's actually not that much of a plot in this book. It's a very kind of character introspective book. But it's still what I would consider stupid decisions, until I realized the reason I was having such an adverse reaction to the decisions that this fictional character was making is because I could have seen myself making the exact same decisions when I was her age. So yeah, that's why. That's why I went from a 4-star from A to an A+. Like, I upped my rating once I thought about it. But I really loved it. The sequel, Long Island, is coming out soon. I forgot to check when it's coming out, but I do plan to read that right away. And if you saw my haul, I did pick up another Tóibín book from the Reader's Guide used bookstore. I got Nora Webster, so I'll be reading this at some point. So I finished that. I'm going to actually get these out of order a little bit of what I read them. So the next one I finished was, finally, I finished A History of Rome in 100 Lives, and the garbage truck is coming, so you're going to hear noise. I've talked about this one before. This is for Historathon. This is basically kind of a survey of all of the Roman Empire from the beginning to the fall, and it's told through 100 mini biographies. It's written by Philip Matyszak and Joanne Barry. Philip Matyszak is really prolific in this area. The book I read before was also by him, and that was about ancient Greece. This one worked better because it's biographies and not short story-ish sort of things, so my expectation going into it was a little more reasonable. But I thought it was really interesting. I think this is a really great, accessible history book for someone who wants to understand what men are thinking about all the time, apparently. You know, the whole thing about men thinking about the Roman Empire, like, all the time. Just so you know, my husband does actually think about the Roman Empire all the time. It is. I mean, literally every day. So he might read this book. I don't know. For him to read a book, that's quite an accomplishment. But so it was, I just thought it was really interesting. And it has big names and little names. Last week I read The Teenage Poet, which is still tagged in here because that's my favorite one, because it's just so teenagers never change sort of thing. But yeah, if you're looking for an accessible history about the Roman Empire, this is a good one to go to. And it's because it took me so freaking long to read it, it's obviously very easy to put down and pick up again, because I kept having to put it down to concentrate on BookTube prize books. So there you go, that one. Okay, and then yesterday I finished Nightblind by Ragnar Jónasson, which is the second in his Dark Iceland series. I just started that last month. I read it. I had it on my shelves. This was the second one, and I liked it. I think I liked it a little bit more than the first one. I think it was more of a... It just seemed like a little bit more polished. It also seemed more like a book in a series, which is neither here nor there. I'm not saying that's a pro or con with this book. It just did feel like it's more of a series. It is set 5 years past where the first book, Snowblind, was that the name of it? Anyway, past that one. Which at first I was like, why are you doing that? But then it kind of made sense why they did that. So Ari Thor, who's our main character, has actually grown up quite a bit. And in the first book, he's very green and sort of like doesn't know what's going on. So we've been able to kind of skip him learning everything. And now he's pretty confident in his own abilities. He's still not the inspector. That's kind of how it sets up. This is not a spoiler because this is the set of the book. The new his inspector from the first book has taken a job in Reykjavik. So there's a new inspector that Ari Thor's not super close with, but whatever. And he goes on a call about a drug bust or something, and he's shot, and Ari Thor finds him. So, you know, Ari Thor is like, he's looking to climb up the ladder a little bit, and he hasn't been able to do that so far. His inspector from the first book does come back to help. That's kind of an issue in this book, help on the case figuring out who shot the current chief. So that was all really interesting. I did figure it out kind of early, which is fine because I still think the way they told it was, the way Jónasson told the story was very effective. He did something in the first book, which is where he had the story going and then he had this kind of like other narrative going, and then they sort of came together at the end. And he does that here too. It just works better in this book. So, in the first book, Ari Thor is having relationship issues with his girlfriend. And now 5 years later on, his girlfriend has moved up and they have a kid, and there's still relationship issues. I could have done without that, honestly. I wasn't really there for that. It wasn't a big deal, but whatever. At one point it did kind of play into the main narrative in a way that made sense, sort of. And I did read in the author's note that the third book, the one that comes after this, really ties in after this book. So I'm interested to read that one, which I will probably do next month. Maybe. We'll see. So, okay. Now I kind of read these out of order because I kind of want to talk about these two books together. So the next book I read was Dumb Witness by Agatha Christie. So first of all, does that dog look like anyone, any BookTube celebrity? I think it does. If you don't know who, go check out Greg's channel. I'll tag it down below and you'll see what I mean. I think I have hit the peak Agatha Christie period, because last month when I read Cards on the Table, I said this was my favorite Poirot so far. It's been unseated. This is my new favorite Poirot. This is a really fun book. It's a Poirot and Hastings, which I've not warmed up to Hastings the way a lot of people have, although I do like him a lot better in this one. Poirot has a lot of character, and in this book, for the first time that I really remember, he's willing to sort of use gossip to his advantage, both in participating in it and how he processes it, which I thought was really interesting. So this dog is Bob the dog, and so Hastings takes a liking to Bob the dog, and you have like Bob the dog's thoughts, not in a 6:30 sort of way from Lessons in Chemistry, but like Hastings tells you what he thinks Bob is saying, which is just very cute. And lots of fun kind of like book only characters in here. So this would have been perfect book until I got to chapter 18. So Agatha Christie, as we know, has her issues. And one of her issues is she uses the term foreign a lot, which is kind of an anti-Semitic stand-in. And in this book, foreign is used a lot, but it's actually used to mean not British, which is, I think, a correct way of using it, especially when you have Poirot as the center, who is a foreign character. He's Belgian. There's another foreign character in this book who is Greek. So it's not, they're using the term foreign correctly. And I was like, that's so much better, right? So I thought, you know what, Agatha, you're getting better. And then I got to chapter 18, and I'm going to show you most of the title of chapter 18. You can see that. I'm not going to show you that N-word, but I will tell you that it is the N-word. Yeah, I saw that and I went, which I will get to the next book I finished, which will kind of make more sense. I was like, what is going on here? So that little phrase, N in the Woodhouse, is apparently a saying that was common in the time. And they reference that saying. That's why that's in here. Now, I know there's I've heard the arguments on both sides about whether or not we should clean up, sensitize books from other eras. And you know what? There's good arguments on both sides. I'm going to pull the both sides thing here on this one, but I'm going to say with Agatha Christie, I do think it's important to look at each case, at least each author individually. And in Agatha Christie, so Agatha Christie herself would edit her books when she realized that she was being offensive. She would do that. Her most famous novel is And Then There Were None. The previous title to that was 10 Little Indians, which is not great, but it's a heck of a lot better than the title before that, which was 10 Little N-Words. Apparently, she hadn't gotten the memo about that word yet. Anyway, so because she did that in her own lifetime, I kind of feel like that's implied consent to do that to her books now. Now, I do believe whenever this is done, it needs to be noted in the book and clear, and I also kind of feel like the original should still be available if that's what people want. That's kind of where I am on this. But that one, I was like, what is going on here? And basically, this phrase, and in the woodpile, is the same thing as a wolf in sheep's clothing. And I think like the original reason why it might not have been changed is in Agatha Christie's lifetime, when she learned that that's not a nice word, is because, oh, what are we going to replace that whole phrase with? Well, you're going to replace it with a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm pretty sure that was a saying in 1936 when this book was published. I'm sorry. Maybe someone who was alive in 1936 can tell me if they said a wolf in sheep's clothing then, but that's exactly, that saying has the exact same meaning behind it as the saying that is used in this book. So I was like, Agatha, please. So I don't understand why that's still there. But then again, this particular book, this edition, which is like the new edition, came out in, well, this was published in 1937. My thing's in 1936. It doesn't say in here, but it's probably pretty recently. Maybe before they started doing the sensitivity editing or whatever you call that. Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads had a term for it, and I can't remember what it was. I'd never heard that term before, and then he explained it. And I think this is what he's talking about. And he has his feelings on it too, and that's fine. Again, I see points on both sides. My computer's all of a sudden doing weird things. Stop that. So anyway, that was a big thing in this book. Just that one chapter. Just that one thing. But if you took that out, this was a really excellent mystery and really fun and enjoyable. And it is like Poirot, like I like him. The Poirot in this book is the one that I feel so far, of what I've read so far, is closest to what you get in the David Suchet adaptation. And the Hastings-Poirot relationship, I think, in this is the closest that you get in the adaptation. So I do recommend this, just, chapter 18, a lot of trouble. So the other book I finished, where I saw the N-word quite a lot, was The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Yes, I finally finished it. So if you don't know the story about this, when I was in high school, a junior year in high school, we were required to read, this district requirement to read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn in American Lit. And then we had an essay test on it. There was a district-wide test. I tried to read it and I couldn't get past the dialect. And this was a time when audiobooks existed, but they were really for people who had sight issues. They were not like they are now. So it wasn't a possibility really. So I just didn't read it. And then I BS'd my way through the test and got like the highest score in the district. And since then I felt guilty about the fact I haven't read this book. I felt like I got away with something. So I said, finally, I'm going to read this book. I'm going to pay that cosmic debt. And that cosmic debt is now paid. So what did I think of it? So it started out fine. It started out fine. I was okay with it until the Duke and the King showed up. And that just felt like it sucked the life out of this story to me. It just did. And after that, it became such a chore. Even when they're no longer part of the narrative, I couldn't get back into the groove that I had earlier in the book. So that was a really big problem. Also, let's talk about Jim. Now, Jim is the enslaved person who is featured in this book, who is he escapes because he has heard that he's going to be sold down south, and he doesn't want to be sold away from his family that's owned by someone else. And Huck runs into them, and then they do their adventures together. The way that, now I knew that the N-word was really common in this book, and it is really common. And that's why it just was so, I think one of the reasons why it was just so surprising to find it all of a sudden in this book, because I was like, whoa, what happened? But anyway, and I get it. This book was written in the 1880s. This is my whole thing with the of the time argument. Yeah, it's of the time, but I'm not of that time. I'm reading this book in 2024. And, I felt bad that I was starting to get desensitized by that language. That, however, was not my biggest problem. My biggest problem was the way that Jim was depicted. He is depicted as so childlike. And it's interesting. It's not that Twain is saying he's stupid, because at some points Jim is the smartest guy in the room. But he's depicted as childlike, and he very much accepts that role as being childlike. And I don't know what to do with that. Is that a commentary of how African Americans were seen at the time? Was that a commentary on what African Americans had to portray themselves to their enslavers to basically survive? I don't think so. It just, to me, felt like he was robbed of any dignity that he could have had. And it was really hard for me to read. I am, however, very much looking forward to reading James by Percival Everett when it's released after reading this. So if nothing else, I'm glad for reading it for that. So, this was a C+ book for me. I didn't love it. I really didn't. And it brought me back to my question that I always come up with this book in schools is why is it being taught in schools? And I'm not talking about, we should ban it. I'm not at all. I'm just saying, what is the purpose for it being taught in school? I wasn't ever really clear on like why it was taught to me in school my junior year. Was it because they were supposed to teach us a story that involved African Americans? Then why were you giving us a story written by a white guy? Or was it we were supposed to read us something by Mark Twain, which is a valid reason. Sorry, my nose was itchy. A valid reason. But he wrote other books, and frankly, I think Tom Sawyer was a better book. We could have read Tom Sawyer. So it just is very perplexing to me. Now, one of my favorite books that I've read in the past couple of years is We Ride Upon Sticks by Juan Barry. And in this book, there is a character, an African-American character, who hates the fact that they read Huckleberry Finn in school. Now, I read this book during the period of time when I had not read Huckleberry Finn. And so I just thought it was just like the simple like racism use of the N-word thing, which was what I was taught in school. And after reading this book, I understand it. The way it just strips dignity away from the African-American character in this book is just painful. And so, yeah, I'm not saying this book should be banned. I'm just saying when doing curriculum, still have it in the library. I do think that if you are ever going to teach this book, you need to teach it with context. And I think that about a lot of books that were written in different times. You have to teach it with context. So I'm not saying take this book out of the library. I'm not saying ban it. I'm saying maybe when you put your curriculum together, this isn't the best book to include. Kids can still read. They can still get it from the library. But I'm just saying maybe do Tom Sawyer instead if you want to teach Mark Twain. Or maybe find a slave narrative if you want to teach about the African-American experience. Just saying. So that was my feeling about Huckleberry Finn. I'm done with it. I have now done it. I am ready to read James. That's the best thing that came out of this book. So as for what I'm reading now, actually, other than all my long-term stuff, I will say in Les Miserables, I am to the point now where they're rehashing the Battle of Waterloo. And this is the first time in the book I have been a little bit bored. Otherwise, I am completely swept away with this book. I love this book so much. I read it in high school and, I liked it. I read it because I liked the musical. But I read that old translation. It's like a thick book with like the musical Cosette on it. I don't think that translates. I need to find my copy of that book because I want to compare the translations. Because this translation, which is the new one, is fantastic. Anyway, I wasn't going to talk about that. What I'm currently reading, I could really only have 2 books to talk about, so I'm going to add in some other stuff. For middle grade March, I'm reading The War I Finally Won by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. And it's been a while since I have read middle grade, so this took me a little time to settle into because I'm not the target audience, and that's fine. It is written at a middle grade level, and that's fine because it's a middle grade book. Once I kind of got into that, I realized this book is saying some really kind of important things in a language that kids of the target age would understand, talking about things like grief and anxiety. And once that clicked for me, this book is just like very fascinating. I just started it yesterday and I am zooming, cat toy here. I am zooming through this book. So I'll have this book finished in a couple days. And then about what I'm going to read next, I was going to read Wandering Souls next by Tommy Orange. But just this morning, Caitlin from Bandy's Books replied to a comment I left on her video about this book, My Side of the River by Elizabeth Camarillo Gutierrez. I had planned to take this book on vacation because it is set in Tucson and I am going to the Tucson area. I thought, oh great, I'll read a book that's set in that area. And she wrote back and says, yeah, it's kind of depressing. Do you want to take it on vacation? And I was like, I don't think I do. So I might read this one next before I go on vacation to get me in the mood, the Tucson mood, and then I will take something kind of fun on vacation with me. Who knows? I might take this. Oh, this kind of sounds depressing too, so I don't know. I might take a Square of Sevens because I have that as well. Anyway, I'm going to have my Kindle my Kobo with me because I am going to start my, The Love Songs of W.E. Du Bois, and that's on my Kindle, or Kobo, excuse me. And then I also have Les Miserables on my Kobo, and I have like 300 other books on my Kobo, so I'll be fine. But as far as a print book, I think I'm going to take something fun. And this one does not sound like it's fun, so I'm going to read this as vacation prep instead of vacation book. And then digitally, I am reading The Likeness by Tana French. I was planning to read the next Donna Leon book. I've been trying to do library book, own book, library book, own book. But the likeness came in and there's still holds on it. So it was either get it now or wait for a really long time to get it. So I decided to just get it now. So I just started it yesterday. I can't say anything about it so far. I think I'm like 2% in, but I'm reading the likeness. Yes. Oh, and I'm not doing an audiobook right now, but just this morning, finally, after saying it was a 2-week wait for the last 3 weeks, finally, my audiobook version of Henry IV Part 1 came in, so I can do my immersive read of that, which is good because I've been waiting to do that. So yeah, that's what's going on here in my life. This video has turned out to be a little bit long, so I'm going to cut it off because I do actually have to go to the doctor soon. Yeah, so thank you very much. Let me know what you're reading. And yeah, let me know what you're reading. Let me know if you're going on spring break coming up. I know spring break kind of floats at different times of the year for different people. We're last week of March people. But if you're going on spring break, tell me where you're going. Let me live vicariously through you, and then you can live vicariously through my trip to Arizona. Fair? Okay. Leave me a comment, like, subscribe, join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.